Hey, it's all about automation. This is Gary Mintchell, Editor-in-Chief of Automation World Magazine, and it's the annual conference edition. Actually, I wish it was annual, but it's a lot of conferences going on. I'm recording this the last Friday in April, April 29th, and I had a hectic couple of weeks. Went to Florida last week for, actually it's 2 days at the ABB conference, but I took a couple of days to see my son, grandchildren while I was down there. So you got to do that once in a while. And came home, spent Easter Sunday at home, and took off for Chicago. Had two conferences. We had our annual Packaging Automation Forum, and then we had, and I stopped over at another conference, Maintenance and Reliability Technology Summit, or MARTS. And I know the guy that owns the company, and I know a lot of people at the Maintenance Technology magazine. And in fact, I've spoken at that conference a couple of times, and so I stopped just to see what the heck was going on there, and keep my hand in on the reliability engineering side of things. So first off, ABB, typical for ABB, they have a sales meeting before they have the users conference, and so everybody's charged up. It's always a good time. Very well organized. It's a huge company. They have 5 divisions in power generation and other kinds of power and discrete manufacturing and process automation. And so there's a lot of stuff going on, and they bring them all together. About 4,200 people altogether, and my guess is that probably 60% or 65% anyway are probably customers. And so it's a huge number of people to invade the Marriott in Orlando. Business is looking good from all aspects. Orders were up, and they were very optimistic in that. They were integrating Baldor at this time, and when I talked to Joe Hogan, the CEO, he was very proud of the fact they were able to keep the top 82 managers at Baldor on board. And I really touted that, really touted how they were really working hard to integrate Baldor in with ABB and how they were going to do that. And it all sounded really good, and then all of a sudden I'm starting to hear rumors of a couple of people retiring. But you know, out of 82, and you get the buyout, and some of them probably had equity, so not totally surprising. But I don't think it's a statement on ABB, at least I hope not. I have no grudge against that company. Seems to be pretty well run. They've really recovered from their doldrums. I spent quite a bit of time. I only talked to the process automation people some. That's kind of the backbone of a lot of things that they do, but wasn't really like a focus of any kind. So I talked to a few people there. Joe Hogan in his keynote made a specific mention of robotics, and the robotics business has really picked up, and it's been merged in with other aspects of things. So they've got motors, drives, motion control. They do have PLCs. They do have discrete manufacturing stuff. Not a lot of some of those things they don't get a lot of press, or they don't promote maybe as much as they could. Matter of fact, that was one thing that they were talking about, was maybe they should do a little bit better job promoting some of this stuff, especially in North America. Power is a big thing, and they're into utilities in a big way, and they're kind of high-end, high voltage. You know, man, when I go through there, I see stuff that you know, I hadn't seen since I was worked as an electrical as a lineman when I was one summer in college. Guy said, "Oh, you do electricity. Why don't you get a job for the summer?" I said, "Fine." So I'm at the top of some cherry picker and doing 12,000 volts or something obscene like that. But anyway, they have those huge, you know, huge things like that. A lot of medium voltage drives and contactors at ABB. So that was pretty much that. I had lots of meetings, got lots of briefings and so on. And like I say, it was very upbeat, and they've recovered tremendously over the last 7 years since the first one of these Automation World. That's what they called their event. It's now Automation and Power World, but the company's come a long way. So you know, that's good. Like I've told all of you before many times, that especially as an editor, I like competition, and I like the companies to succeed. It's good for all of us. And so then I went to our Packaging Automation Forum. The day before the Packaging Automation Forum, which was just this past Monday, Dave Chappell, who heads the, I think it's called the Part 5 Committee of ISA 88, So there's the batch standard, ISA 88, and a group of people in packaging took that batch model, the state model that came from batch, and applied it to packaging machinery. So they had a state model that described packaging machinery so that it's for interoperability. And so when machines come in, no matter what company they come in from, the companies know, the end companies like a Procter & Gamble and a Unilever and Nestle and all these people, they know how to deal with it because they all pretty much look and feel the same no matter what the underlying control architecture is or whatever. So they did that. They called it PAC-ML. And part 5 is they're trying to really nail the specifications and write it as an official ISA standard, which then can become an ANSI standard, which then can become an IEC standard, and really drive this process along. And so Dave Chappell does a workshop every year, the day before Packaging Automation Forum. Very well attended. I don't remember the numbers. I think he told me over 30 people were there to learn about PAC-ML and ISA 88 and putting it all together in a packaging machine context. The Packaging Automation Forum, we had a number of speakers, and we really covered the gamut from controls to networking to software. Reliability was in there. I put together a safety panel, and so we had 3 really good people speaking on different aspects of safety, machine safety in this case. Very well received. We had 125, the last I heard, in attendance, which was very good. It's a nice size conference. And like I say, if you missed it, it's a shame, because even if you don't do packaging machines, if you do any kind of machines, there was stuff there you could pick up and use. Aside from safety, which like I said, we had a really good panel. David Harrington from Kraft was there to talk about how they implement safety as part of the culture and what they do at Kraft. Fred Hayes was there from PMMI, the Packaging Machinery Manufacturers Institute, and he kind of shepherds and heads up the packaging machine safety initiatives through PMMI. And then we had Roberta Nelson-Shea, who talked, actually she took her talk, each one talked for a few minutes, and we had a panel discussion. And she talked really about the relationship of lean and safety, which is a really good point, because if you're really she says some people look at lean, and when they're doing lean, they actually do unsafe things. You say, well, wait a minute, you can't do unsafe things. You really need to be, be doing things safely. And so it's how do you do lean and safe, and how if you build safe machines, they actually should be lean. They should be, efficient and get good throughput, one-piece stuff, and all the lean stuff. So anyway, it's some good questions from the audience on that one. Brian. I knew Griffin from Nestle flew in from Switzerland to talk to these people. His pitch was, as a large end user, Nestle, he takes in machines. Now what they had done was, like many of them, they had specified a common control platform. They wanted every machine to come in Rockwell. And people do that. Some people specify Siemens, and usually it's Siemens or Rockwell in my experience. In this kind of case. So anyway, he said, okay, he went to so a new machine builder would come in and he said, okay, I like your machine, but it's got to have Rockwell. And they say, we don't do Rockwell. We've never done Rockwell. We don't know how to do it. Tell you what, if you want Rockwell, we'll put it in. But we can't guarantee it'll work. We can't guarantee the throughput. We can't guarantee the longevity. We can't guarantee we can get it on time. So for twice as much money, twice as much time, maybe you'll get a machine. And it's probably not so much a reflection on Rockwell, it's just that this machine builder optimized its machine on somebody else. Could have been Siemens, B&R, Beckhoff, Bosch Rexroth, who knows? It could have been all those people were vying, and Schneider in there, all vying for that business. So they started looking, so we would really like to diversify our offering or our machines, but we really we need interoperability. We can't just throw in machines with all kinds of different control platforms and have all kinds of problems in implementing. They all look different, they all feel different. So he said PAC-ML. So they did PAC-ML and Ethernet, and they're really working to try to find a common Ethernet that's not a flavor of somebody's. And I'll get a lot of response on this saying, well, ours is common, but talk to Brian. But anyway, so they use PAC-ML, and it's not in the official spec yet, but they've done like a pilot of going to machine builders, getting them in, getting the PAC-ML implemented, so that the operator interface looks right. Part of PAC-ML is that when it says it's waiting, they know what waiting is. There's no variation from vendor to vendor, to machine to machine to machine. It's all the same. And it seems to be working very well in their pilot run, and they're going to roll it out as an official spec, and they're really going to go out trying to get a standardized PAC-ML, across the board, so that the vendor can supply a machine with whatever control platform they want. And I asked him, I said, well, but what about technicians getting in and repairing? In my experience, one of the first things that happened when we shipped a machine was some electrician or technician got into it and started tinkering with the program, and he said, no. Our guys don't need to tinker with the program. It's usually very highly engineered motion control, and we don't want them re-engineering the motion control. So therefore, we treat that like a black box. If there's a problem in that, we call the supplier. I thought, okay, that makes sense. So the supplier gets to keep all of his proprietary knowledge. Nestle gets a variety of machines at the best price, at the best delivery time, and they all look and feel the same. So it's a win-win-win. So to me, that was like the top message I got out of the whole thing, to see how these standards really work to make manufacturers more competitive and more profitable, and that's what it's all about. So then I went across the street, well, actually just down about a block from our conference to the MARTS conference, and it was kind of interesting. Well, more than kind of interesting. On the first night that I went, they had a dinner, and Art just invited me over and said, come over for dinner. So I came over for dinner, and I knew that they did some work with the Autism Society, and it turns out that throughout that whole maintenance reliability technology magazine and vendors and readers, the whole thing, they discovered a common thread of autism. Different families had an autistic child or other kinds of experiences. So they put together a dinner, and it's a $50 a head dinner, and it's to support the Autism Society of Illinois. And what's interesting is my son-in-law actually is a therapist. He's a MA psychologist, works with autistic kids. So I hear a lot about that all the time. And until a couple of years ago, I knew nothing, probably like many of you. So anyway, they do this thing. It's a really nice dinner. They had a nice program, nice dinner, nice program. Had a speaker come up who's actually, I think he's with a supplier company, but shared his experiences of an autistic kid. And you're often told if they're just diagnosed with autism, they'll never talk. They'll always be withdrawn. The symptom of autism is you're totally withdrawn, and nobody could get into your frame of reference, and you won't talk and you won't interact. And his 20-year-old daughter just graduated from high school. They worked and worked and worked with her, and she developed a vocabulary. I mean, she still has autism. She still has, kind of this little, kind of sometimes narrowed view, and you have to kind of go in and break her attention span and say hi. But great talk. And then they had some entertainment to follow that, make it an upbeat thing. And they raised several $1,000s. Fantastic. That's a great thing for a conference to do. I'm really impressed. That was pretty good. And I went back later and looked at the conference, and they run a really nice conference. If you're in reliability, any kind of like reliability engineer and management of maintenance management and all kinds of stuff like that, probably even operations. Although sometimes operations managers and maintenance managers don't like each other, but get over it. Anyway. It was a good thing, and I'm trying to partner up with magazines and see if there's some magazines that maybe we can work together. And I had meetings in Hanover with a German magazine. Actually, when I was in China last, I had meetings with an Italian magazine and a Chinese magazine. And if it all works out according to my plan, maybe I could get a network of magazines going on. None of us can afford to publish overseas, but we all have similar interests and readers. And the problems are worldwide. So we'll see if that works out too. That's what I'm working on there, and along with Jane and the folks at Maintenance and Reliability. So that's the 2-week wrap up. Although Monday evening I'm flying to Houston, and I'll be at the OTC show on Tuesday, and kind of wondering if it was going to be good or not, and whether there were enough people there for me to see. And my boss sent out an email to all the clients of Automation World, and next thing I know, I've got more appointments and people to see than I could probably fit into a day. But if you're going to be at OTC, I'm going to be there Tuesday, May the 3rd, and you can call my cell 937-726-1798. Maybe we can, or text me, and or tweet me, and maybe we can meet up for a drink or something, kind of at the conclusion of the thing. Or I'll be running around. Stop me, say hi. And after OTC, I've got some other meetings going on, and you can catch me somewhere in the future. So until then, this is Gary Mintchell. This is another conference edition of All About Automation, and hoping you're having a good one. But I did talk to a guy who lives in Tuscaloosa, Alabama, and I didn't realize what was going on down there. And if you're down in that way, man, I hope that you're safe and that your house came through all those storms, and if not, at least your loved ones are all safe and sound. And what a thing! So my prayers go out to you, and hopefully we can pick that up. So this is Gary Mintchell, All About Automation.